And for the next 45 minutes, you'll be joining me for a high-intensity based strength training class where we'll be covering a couple of functional movements with the use of our standard home equipment. So for today's session, we'll be using a heavy weighted object. The object will be weighted in accordance to your strength levels. So what I've done is I've taken a backpack and I've folded up with some heavy textbooks. The idea will also be to have something that you've got a solid strap on. So if you need to, you make sure that there's a fixed strap or handle on the object, and you'll also need a broomstick or dowel stick. So I've got some PVC piping that I'll be using as my broomstick or dowel stick. And as always, you also need a mat. You can use a towel laid out on the ground if you'd like to, and then you can keep a water bottle and sweat towel nearby. So before we get started with the warm-up, I'd like you to please remind you that if you do have any injuries such as shoulder niggles, low back pain or knee issues, please make sure that you follow the instructions given to you by your physiotherapist or biokineticist. Please do not force through the movement. If you do feel that it is uncomfortable or causing more pain, rather stop the movement and go back to another exercise that you were able to do or one that your physio or biokineticist gave you as rehab. Following that, if you have had a recent surgery, please make sure that you're not causing anything to aggravate that surgical area. So to get started, we'll be doing 2 minutes of skipping and jogging. If you'd like to skip with your skipping ropes, you can grab those and start hopping around on the spot. If you don't have skipping ropes, you can just hop around like I will do. And when we start the jogging, please make sure that you don't venture too far away from your cell phone or laptop so that you can still hear when we finish our jogging. So starting with the skipping, we will go up and down, nice and light on our feet. The idea is to just get the body warmed up a little bit. We've had a relatively cold weekend, so starting off this week, there's a little bit of sunshine. We'll hopefully get through it with a nice start in the morning and enjoy the rest of the day. Last couple of seconds, and then we'll go into jogging for the last minute. Good, and you can relax. So just to start off with some jogging. On the spot is fine as long as you've got your arms and legs moving. All you want to do is increase your heart rate, your breathing rate, and body temperature. From here, you can lift up at the back. And then up at the front. Good stuff. Right, so now that we've got our heart rate and breathing rate up, what we'll do is we'll go into a couple of dynamic stretches. So the idea for this is to get through your full range of movement. So that's getting your joint woken up a little bit. And then we'll also be going into some mobility flows to make sure that we compound on that. So starting off, we'll go into some diagonal arm swings or chest openers. The idea is to open up the front by pinching your shoulder blades together at the back so that we've got your back muscles working. We'll do 10 per side. You can either alternate or stick to one side as long as you're only counting each time the one side goes up. So that's 5 for me. That's 10. Okay, moving into our hip opener, so we'll go with leg swings. The idea will be to swing as far forward as you can and back all the way. If you need to, you can hold on to a stable object to help with balance. So when you're swinging the leg back, please make sure you're not opening up your hips to point to the side. Your hips must always point forward. Use your arms as counterbalances if you need to, and you'll go for 10 per leg. That's 10. Good. Then moving on to our mobility flows, you can grab a seat on your mat or towel. We'll start off placing our hands behind our back, our feet just wider than shoulder width apart, and the idea will be to drop both knees to the ground as you rotate, getting your hand through the keyhole that will be behind you, and the keyhole will be formed by having your hand behind your back and you're just going through that gap there. You're also looking to drop the shoulder as low to the ground as possible, and then from there you're going into a bridge, squeezing your glutes to get your hips up, and then over to the other side. Okay, so we'll do 5 per side like that. So starting off facing forward, getting your shoulder down, going into your bridge, and then over to the other side. And the last one. Alright, from there, laying flat on your back. What we'll do is hold behind one leg, hug that leg as close to your chest as possible and relax your neck. From here, your toes are pointing towards your chest and you're slowly extending the knee or straightening the knee. You'll do 5 repetitions. Once you've done your 5 slow repetitions, you'll go into 5 faster repetitions, keeping the other leg relaxed. So you should feel that the hamstrings are tensing as you're straightening your leg. And then the last one will be with a straight leg, up as high as possible with a good speed. Going over to the other side. Right, so once you finish with that, we'll turn over into our push-up position. Over here, what you'll do is a push-up complex where there will be 3 movements you need to get through. The first one will be a normal push-up where you are controlling up and down. Your elbows are ideally tucked slightly towards your torso, but not too close just yet. So you're actually forming an arrowhead with your arms. So that is the position that you want for your push-up, not out too wide and not too narrow just yet. So that would be the normal version. When you are doing the narrow one, you are tucking your elbows and keeping your grip nice and narrow. And then you'll go into the diamond position where you've got your hands together, your index finger and your thumb touching. If you need to, you can do the modified version where your knees start on the ground. If you want, you can cross the legs at the back, but the important part is to keep your hips level and ideally your hips and shoulders stay in line. You don't keep your hips up while you drop your chest. You should be dropping both at the same time. So you'll need to do 5 repetitions of each. It's first the normal, then you're going to the narrow, and then the diamond. Right, and moving into our final movement, it will be the overhead squat. So we'll use our PVC pipe. The idea of this is to hold nice and wide. It will allow you to free up or open up your upper back and shoulders. So for this, if you are able to, you are first pulling the band or the dowel stick as far back as you can. Then you bring it back to the top of your head, and then you go into your overhead squat. So the idea isn't to force your arms all the way to the back right from the start. Some people will struggle with the shoulder mobility. All you need to do is go to the furthest point you can while it still feels comfortable, and then you return back to the top. You sit in your squat, and remember, once again, the squat depth is up to your mobility. So if your hips, knees or ankles do not allow you to reach down to the ground, rather stop the squat there while you still have good form, rather than going down and you start leaning forward or lifting the heels. So it will be 5 of those. You bring the dowel stick over your head and then into the squat. Okay. You shouldn't force the dowel stick or the broomstick to move over your head. It should be a comfortable movement. You'll progress with your range if you are stopping just halfway, and eventually you'll get there. Good, so once we finish with that, you can have a quick drink of water, and then we'll get started with our primary movements. So for those who haven't joined one of these classes before, the primary movements are a series of movements which are typically the most complex and somewhat heaviest. The idea of these movements is to make sure that you are working as hard as possible throughout the movement with maximum control, and generally there's an element of stability involved as well. So to start off, we've got the first exercise, which will be a single arm thruster. I'll be using my weighted object, so I'll have my backpack. And the idea for this is to move from your front squat position, or just keeping your object next to you on the side, down into a deep squat, and then from there, standing and going straight into a push press. So for the push press, you're utilizing the triple extension, which is your hips, knees, and ankles all exploding up to the top. And as you do that, you're trying to punch the ceiling. Make sure that you absorb the weight when it comes back down. You don't have to squat down straight away, but you just need to absorb it, and then you'll restart the movement. So to give you a slow demonstration to start off with, I'm going to have my object next to me. Please make sure it doesn't move around too much. So from here, I'm going to be sitting into my front squat or the squat position, and straight away you're going into your push press. So that would be the slow version where I've broken up the two movements. So to show you a demonstration in real time, it will be from there straight into the top. You absorb the weight, and then you'll go for your next one. Right, so we've got 5 per side over there. Once we finish our 5 per side, we'll go into our next exercise. So we'll go through all 3 exercises one by one, and then when you're ready, we'll continue in your own time. So it's 5 single arm thrusters. Try to keep your shoulder nice and close to your body. You don't want to throw the weight out to the side. Right, so once you've finished with your single arm thrusters, we'll go into the triphasic push-ups. So for the triphasic push-ups, the idea is to exaggerate the slow movement going downwards, holding at the bottom, and then you return to your top position at a normal pace. So to give you an idea of what that looks like, once again, you can use the modified version with your knees bent. Just cross your legs over at the back, keep your hips level with your shoulders at all times. So doing the normal version, you can put your feet shoulder width apart if you'd like, and it's slowly moving downwards. Ideally, you're counting between 3 and 5 seconds. You get down to the bottom and you hold for 3 to 5 seconds, and then you perform your push-up. If you're doing the modified version on your knees, it's the same idea, going down, holding, and then from there up to the top. So if you can, you're looking to do 5 push-ups. If you really struggle with the movement, stick to 3. Make sure you don't cause any pain to your shoulder or around the lower back area. So starting off with your first set of 5. So it's all about the slow and controlled movement. So that's 4. And that's 5. Good. So moving into exercise 3 of the primary movements, we've got a bent over row complex, which we'll be doing with one arm. So there'll be a single arm bent over row complex. The 3 movements will be a wide row, so you're keeping your palm facing towards your back foot. From there, the elbow moves out to the side. So all of your weight should be on the front leg. You're protecting your lower back by squeezing your glutes. And in that movement, you're pulling your arm out to the side. So to show you from front on, I've got my hips level, they're pointing forward, all of my weight onto the front foot. If you want, you can even keep your hand there, and your hand starts from the side and it moves outwards. Please make sure you don't pull your shoulder towards your ear. You are ideally using your shoulder blade to pull, and the elbow must move as high as possible. That will be the first one. The second row will be a neutral position, so your palm is now facing towards the inside knee, and from there you're pulling towards your belly button, keeping your elbow as high as possible. So you're not trying to pull with the hand going up, the elbow must lead going as high as possible, so you actually see that your elbow goes past your back. And then the last one, the third of the bent over rows, is the underhand one, where your palm is actually facing forward. From here, you're pulling towards your hips so that you can actually feel that the movement travels backwards rather than just upwards. So once again, the same rules apply. Get your elbow past your back and try and keep the movement nice and slow. You'll do 5 repetitions of each. If for any reason you do struggle, you do feel a little bit of tension building up, rather stop the movement or reduce the weight that you are trying to row. See if reducing the numbers of the rows also helps. So maybe go from 5 to maybe 3 rows instead. So starting off, I've got my weight, all my weight into the front foot. Elbow will go out to the side first, and from there you do 5. Going into the neutral grip, so palm facing the inside of your knee, pull towards your belly button, and then the last one, underhand grip, so that the palm is facing forward, pull towards your hips. Keep the shoulder down at all times. Good. Going over to the other side. Going into the neutral grip. And lastly, underhand grip. Good. Have a quick breather. So that will be 1 set down. You've got another 2 to go to make up your 3 sets. So to remind you, it will be your first one is the single arm thrusters. From there, it's 5 per side. After that, you'll go into your push-up complex where you're doing 5 repetitions of each. If for any reason you are struggling, drop it down to 3 repetitions of each, making sure that you can still hold the movement for your 3 to 5 seconds. And finishing up the movement would be the single arm bent over row complex, which we just completed now. So if you feel comfortable with those movements, please proceed at your own time. For those of you who need extra cueing, what I'll be doing is showing you the modified versions of each of those exercises. So to start off with your single arm thrusters, this one, the simplest modification or extra cueing is to break the 2 movements up completely. So we'll not be able to benefit from the momentum of standing, but what we'll do is we'll learn each component by itself and then put them together for the 3rd set. So starting off, it will be the squat, where if that is the depth of your squat, that's fine. From there, you'll stand and then punch the ceiling as you're standing. So we are taking a little bit more time to learn the 2 movements, but you'll benefit from that in the 3rd set when you once again put it together. So just try to remember that you want to explode upwards and punch the ceiling. So we've got 5 on that side, we'll do 5 on the other side. Good. You put your weighted object down, and next up is our triphasic push-ups. So for this one, what I'll do is I'll show you the modified version. From there, it's easier to move into your full length version rather than trying to go from your full length playing around with time. So if you hold this position at the bottom, you're able to develop a little bit more strength and comfort around being stuck at the bottom. So when you're moving slowly down, you hold this position and you get comfortable with holding that position so that when you go into your full length position, it's easier and you're more familiar with that position at the bottom. So we'll do 5 like this, slowly down, you're holding, get comfortable with holding, and then it's up. Good. Finishing those 5, we'll go into our rows. So the rows is the most straightforward exercise. The only cueing that I'll add to that is to focus on what's happening at the shoulder joint. So we're going to actually try pinch the pencil in between our shoulder blades, but you're only using the one side of your shoulder. So you actually need to pinch even harder to try pull your shoulder blade inwards towards your spine. The trick to that is to make sure that you don't pull your shoulder towards your ear, because if you're trying too hard to pull, you're going to start naturally pulling upwards towards your ear. So from my starting position, hand out to the side, all of my weight forward, squeeze your glutes to protect your lower back, and I'm pinching the shoulder blade all the way into the spine as I lift the elbow. Good. Neutral position and towards your belly button. And finally, underhand grip, and you pull towards your hip. Good. Good stuff. So that is 2 sets down, 1 set to go. Have a quick water break, and then we'll finish up with the final set. So for those of you who are feeling comfortable now, please continue in your own time. Ideally, you should feel that you can perform the movement with adequate technique. So your single arm thrusters is now going a little bit deeper than before, and then your push-ups are being held for a little bit longer. Your bent over rows will be the one that will probably stick the same, and the idea is to always make sure that you're relaxing your shoulder. So going through all 3 exercises, I'm going to be moving at a set pace. What I want you to do is try and match my pace. So starting off with your single arm thrusters, it's going to be down and it's up. Good. Switching over to the other side, getting ready. Going into the push-ups, I'll be doing the full length version. And finishing up our bent over rows. Alright, the final set on this side. There we go. So that's all done for the primary movement. Have a quick water break and then we'll get ready for your Metcon. Alright, so for the Metcon, what we are doing is a series of 3 exercises, of which we will be repeating 2 of them. So there will be basically 5 stations, and the idea is to move through them as quickly as possible. For those of you who are not familiar with what the Metcon is all about, Metcon stands for metabolic conditioning. So we're actually looking to battle through a series of exercises. Sometimes they are repetition based, sometimes they're time based, sometimes it's a combination of the 2. But all you need to worry about is making sure that you keep good form and make sure that you are working to the maximum of your ability. So don't force through the movement if you're getting it wrong. Try stick to a good movement pattern, making sure that you are using the correct muscle groups. So starting off, the first exercise is a single arm kettlebell swing. So I'll be using my weighted object as my kettlebell. Like I mentioned, you just need to make sure that you've got a solid strap or handle to make sure that the bag or the object doesn't go flying when you start swinging. The idea is to move with a single arm and your starting position will always have the weight behind your back or behind your legs, so that when I've got my hip hinge, which is essentially pushing your hips backwards, my back is straight. I like to put my hand behind my back to ensure that my back stays straight, so you actually spread out your hand to feel if your fingers are still in contact with your back. And from there, you're driving your hips forward as you swing, absorb with your hamstrings. This movement is a momentum movement that is generated by your hips. You're not actually standing and then using your shoulders to lift. Your hands are only facilitating the movement. So all you need to do is have a good grip, and the rest of the work should be done from your hips. It's not a shoulder exercise. So moving from your 15 single arm kettlebell swings, you'll go into 10 single leg burpees. You can put your object down and you're doing 10 single leg burpees, where if I'm working from my right arm, I'll make it easy to remember, I'll work with my right leg. The single leg burpee is going down. If you can, you touch the object with your chest, and then you're up again into your hop. So you're basically going through your normal burpee cycle, but only on one leg. After your 10 single leg burpees, you'll do 5 broad jumps, where you're trying to jump over your weighted object. So if you can, keep it in front of you, make sure that you land in a squat, you turn around, and then you'll jump back to the other side. So finishing your 5 broad jumps, you'll probably end up on the opposite side if you are doing them correctly. Then you'll go from the left hand side, going into your 15 single arm kettlebell swings once again, and from that you'll finish up with your 10 single leg burpees. So it's all on the left hand side to finish up. Okay, so those are the movements. If you need to, you watch me, make sure that you are performing them in the correct sequence. So to give you a reminder of the numbers, it's 15 single arm kettlebell swings into 10 single leg burpees, and then 5 broad jumps. You'll just finish up with your 15 kettlebell swings and your 10 burpees after that. Right, so getting ready, 15 swings to start, and time's on. Always using your hips, so the hips move backwards and drive forwards. Good, that's 15. Down into your single leg burpees. I'll stick with my right. That's 5. Three more. And that's 10. Going into 5 broad jumps. Last one. Right. Going down to your 15 kettlebell swings again. Five more to go. Good. And to finish up, 10 single leg burpees on my left side. That's 5. Last one. Well done, you've got a breather. So to finish up, for our finisher, we've got Turkish get-ups, and for those of you who are unfamiliar with the finisher, that is essentially where we are wrapping up the session by finishing up the last bit of energy that we have left. So for this morning's finisher, we'll be doing a Turkish get-up countdown where we are doing 3 per side and then 2 per side, finishing up with 1 per side. For those of you who are familiar with the Turkish get-up, if you'd like, you can do 5 per side into 3 per side and then 1 per side. So basically, just remember that you're sticking to the odd numbers if you're doing the 5, 3, 1. And if you are new to this, learn the movements. There is a very complicated sequence, so we'll stick to 3 per side and then 2 per side and 1 per side to finish. So Turkish get-up is essentially all about extending the pillar, and it is the pillar of support for the weight you're carrying. So if my left hand has the weight, my left knee will be bent. Right hand goes out to the side, and from there, your pillar is from your fist to your shoulder. I will extend into a crunch. The pillar is now between my fist and my hip. I drive my hips upwards, and then it's from your left hand to your right hand. From there, you need to bring your right knee underneath your body. You've got a nice straight pillar, and you'll stand from there. Repeat the same sequence on the way down, and from there, that will be your Turkish get-up. Cool, so we've got 3 per side, 2 per side, 1 per side to wrap up. If you are comfortable, it's 5 into 3 and then 1. So I'll start off on my left hand side. It's up for the crunch. From there, drive the hips up. From there, get your knee underneath. You'll notice that that foot stayed flat. It is to help keep your positioning. So if you start moving your feet around, you're going to lose your positioning. Great, so that is my 3 on the left hand side. What I'll do is go through the right hand side. Good, moving back to the left hand side for 2. And then over to the right for 2. Okay, we're almost there. So the final bit is 1 per side, and then we're done. Okay, last push. Well done. Good, so for those of you who are still finishing up, make sure you wrap up and then you have a quick water break. Keep your water bottle nearby. We'll go in for a stretch to cool down. So you can keep your water bottle nearby while you hug your knees and gently rock back and forward. From there, gently side to side, not too much, you don't want to roll over. From there, we'll keep our knees bent, but we'll go into a figure of 4, so one ankle on the opposite knee, and you can hug whichever knee you prefer, as long as you do feel that there is a stretch in the glutes area. You can also keep your knees together and hug. You'll feel it to be lower down as well. Changing over to the other side. From there, we'll hold behind one leg, similar to how we did in the warm-up, except now we'll just hold that extension, pointing our toes towards our chest, and relax the neck if possible. Drop that leg across your body, keep your shoulders flat, and look towards the other side. And changing over, so it's holding behind the other leg. Dropping the leg across your body, shoulders flat, look the other way. From there, to wrap up, we'll go into a half kneeling position. So one knee will be down, the other leg is bent in front of you. If my left knee is down, my left hand will go up. And the idea is to squeeze the left glutes to get your hips forward. You'll feel that there's more of a stretch in the hip flexor. Try and reach with my fingers towards the ceiling, and you'll feel that your lats will also start stretching out a little bit. And changing over to the other side. And that is all. So for the newcomers, I hope that you enjoyed that, and hopefully you decide to join us same time, same place next week. And for those of you who have joined us before, please make sure to tell your friends to join. You'll also have the option of checking out the other classes offered by my fellow colleagues at the Sports Science Institute. You can check the Totalsports pages on all social media platforms, as well as the CISA app. So that is ssisa.com, where you'll be able to find a variety of classes tailored to suit your personal needs. I hope that you guys enjoy the start of the week and stay safe. Cheers.